Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here on this Saturday. Man, great college football and basketball. We're going to talk baseball, roundtable discussion. We got a great lineup. Batting in the leadoff position, a 6'2", 197-pound junior from Amory, Mississippi, Butch Thompson, actually from the suburb of Amory, Coontail, Mississippi. John Hartwell, a legend at the Citadel. Also, the new athletic director at ULM, Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger over in Atlanta. And second hour, we'll be joined by Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com, great national sports writer, former sports editor of the New York Daily News, the Denver Post, the St. Petersburg Times, now GatorBaitMedia.com. And, hey, man, we're here 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. We find excuses to win, okay? That's what we do. We talk about sports. That's what we are. Stay out of the gutter. We're your safe space from politics and all that other virtue signaling out there. We're going to talk to the best people out there. Positive outlook. Gandhi said it best. I will not allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet, and I'll add in their bad attitudes. Hey, I don't need your attitude. I've got my own. I'm going to talk to a winner. Been to 2 of the last 3 College World Series in Omaha. Man wakes up in the morning and starts counting all the ways he's going to pull a game out in the 9th inning, eating some sunflower seeds. As he tells me, Rob, you think I'm calm in that dugout, and as much as you like duck hunting, you see a duck sitting on the water, he looks real calm, but you don't see his feet spinning underneath that water, especially when you're pointing a 12-gauge Benelli at him. So anyway, a lot to talk about. It's cold with college baseball. They're already practicing. We'll get started off with Coach Butch Thompson and give a shout out to some of the boys in Lake Charles, Quentin Stein, Tanner Smith from Quentin, Lake Charles, and DeRitter, big LSU guys listening. But we all love college baseball, and you can follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. And Coach Thompson, John Hartwell, Frank Duffy, everybody's here. Coach, let's talk what's going on down there with baseball practice at Auburn right now, what you're doing to get ready. And I know you've got, 19 new guys on the roster, so everybody's getting acquainted and working together, I'm sure.
Well, good morning, all you men. My thoughts are 2 right now. One, I'm more along the lines of 5'10", about 228. As opposed to 6'2".
Well, it sounds better for the media guy, Coach.
And then
Truth in advertising.
The second thought this morning is I'm soaking wet. I barely made it to you guys because our Auburn students are so amazing, and these guys that follow sports and an athletic director, it's neat to see the interaction with the students. We never should lose that, because that's really why we're all here. And I'm telling you, man, we got a big basketball game against Alabama today, and they camped out overnight, and me and Coach Pearl were handing out Chick-fil-A biscuits all morning. So we had 1,000 students all night. It's raining, and that's really what it's all about this morning is seeing those students. So we all should keep up with our well-dones, right? When you do something well, we should keep up with it to keep us all going. And so I've already had a great start to my day this morning. I guess it's only going to get better from here.
Oh, absolutely it is. You got ESPN Game Day in town for the Auburn, Alabama game, basketball, Iron Bowl. It's hard to get better. I'm looking forward for ESPN, Coach Thompson, to start doing a game day for college baseball. I think we're ready for that.
Yeah, I saw some stuff on social media the last week. It seems like some people are already trying to throw the hint out there. And, Omaha's growing. Our sport is still growing. I guess I've been to a couple here recently, but I go every year. I just don't always get to take a team. Being on the All-American committee, I get to size it up every year, whether I'm with a team or not. And the growth is steady. Even, we've gone through something, tough like the COVID. You go from when we didn't have it to coming back, and you even see growth. It's kind of amazing. So this is the time to absolutely circle the sport of college baseball. It is in a growth cycle. We need to make sure we realize that, and whether it's college game day coming to baseball or us 1,000 other things. This is a good time for us to all capture this sport and continue to push it forward, because it's in one of those growth phases.
Yeah, it is. And I know, Frank's a big LSU guy. Coach, John Hartwell was most recently AD at Utah State, now at ULM. College baseball, no matter where you go, John, I think you've seen the growth out west in the Mountain West Conference. You're going to see it in the Sun Belt. That's nothing but a great thing for America, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Good morning, guys. Great to be with you all today. Yeah, Rob, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I had a 8-season hiatus from college baseball, and I had withdrawals every year. Utah State's one of 4 Mountain West schools that does not have baseball, predicated by the weather. But, I tell the story all the time, and maybe it's an endorsement of baseball or an indictment of basketball, one way or the other, and both schools are doing better. But I can remember my days at Ole Miss when actually Ole Miss baseball as well as LSU baseball made more revenue than men's basketball did at that time. I mean, there was about a 5 or 6 year stretch where that happened. And that's just an indication of how strong college baseball is. And when you've got, there are quite a few schools now that have, between 8 and 10,000 season ticket holders for baseball. So, I mean, it's real. I'm glad to see the NCAA. I guess I've got to temper this a little bit that I'm back in the game now, but I'm glad to see the NCAA came to their senses and, is allowing that additional assistant coach and some more pay there. And I think that's going to be helpful for the game and obviously helpful for a lot of young assistants. And Butch can speak to this. Guys trying to get their foot in the game, and they've done it before basically on their own dime.
Sure.
You've been able to pay them out of camps and things like that. But I think that's great for college baseball. But it's an exciting time. Right now is a great time of year. You got, basketball coming down the home stretch. You got baseball starting next weekend and, spring football cranking up. So going all throttles on campus.
Yeah. Coach, I love what John just said, and talk about this new, what's it, $28-32 million going into Plainsman Park.
Yeah, we got, Plainsman Park's always been a beautiful baseball field, but really, to John's point of the bigger brands in our league, I think we just found ourselves. And, I'd come from a pretty big brand for 8 years prior at Mississippi State. And that's the one thing we're missing. The coaches love working in the park. The kids love playing in Plainsman Park, but it's really just seats, and it was season ticket holders. And, this catches us up from the standpoint of the revenue. The drive-by for recruiting a 15-year-old, the drive-by, and absolutely creating premium seating. Those are things that we've lacked there. So I would say the majority, the lion's share of the money is going to producing those other ways to get some revenue. You go to Atlanta Braves ball game and you got about 20 seating opportunities over how much money you're willing to spend. You can be in a group of 4, a group of 8, a whole big suite, or just a regular fan, but you have all these different options, and we haven't had options. And I would say the bulk of this phase 1 for Plainsman Park is to get in the game in that regard. And then if you would allow me, just give a shout out, John, you got Mike Federico is an amazing, amazing man. Was at Southern Miss, Memphis, and is just an amazing man. He's got a son that's a great player, but he just absolutely is known in our industry as just an amazing human being and has treated everybody right for an entire career. He's been great. And then I think of ULM baseball, I think of Ben Sheets, who was one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball for years and years and years. That's a good group that you jump in there and start leading. I wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I was going to tell you too that Mike has that mutual admiration for you, and I know you guys cross paths in the great state of Mississippi several times. But yeah, he is really, really good, and I owe something to him because he was one of the co-chairs of the search committee that offered me the opportunity. So excited to get started. We've got the Bradley Braves coming to town next weekend for a 3-game set to open up before we make a trip to someplace familiar to you. We go to Starkville the next week for a 2-game midweek set. So looking forward to it getting started.
Yeah.
No easing in, huh? No easing in.
Hey, Frank, I like the backdrop there, but I'm kind of missing you stirring the gumbo pot and all those things you're normally doing.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
I missed it
Frank,
too.
I mean, Butch, Frank is, remember the world's most interesting man on the Dos Equis Beers commercials. Frank Duffy and Franz Beard, those are the two that we have on the show. And Frank, I know, you talked about it. You and Dan Matthews, executive producer of Chuck Oliver's show up in Atlanta, who's on our show a lot, loves baseball. And Coach, he's an Astros fanatic. I mean, he works at 680, the Fan up in Atlanta. And as Frank knows, their radio station is about 50 feet from the front gate to the Braves stadium.
That's
Frank, in what Coach Thompson's talking about and John Hartwell talking about building revenue and seating options, what they do in Atlanta at the Battery. And Coach, you go up there every year and check it out. And I go to the Battery a lot because Mallory lives a mile from there. Frank, could they do something like that? Could you imagine that at a place like Auburn or Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa for college baseball?
Well, there'd be no reason that it couldn't be that way, honestly. Truist Park and that entire complex here in Atlanta is now the prototype of what pro stadiums are going to be going forward. I know because we do advertising on 680 The Fan. I know a lot of the guys, of course, good friends with Ben Ingram, the voice of the Braves. And you would be shocked how many people, how many teams, how many organizations have come in to see what the Braves did. And it was an incredible thing. I mean, they were very quiet about the way that they bought the property. And Ron and I being in real estate, we were impressed by the way that they accumulated that property, got the footprint. But this multi-use is going to be the standard of pro stadiums going forward. Well, there's no reason why it couldn't be in college stadiums. In fact, just this week, I was down in Lakeland, Florida at the Detroit Tigers spring training facility, which is an incredible facility. In fact, it's so good. The Flying Tigers, a single A team, plays there. It reminds me of what our SEC stadiums are now becoming. Especially, once we redid the box several years ago. So I absolutely could see that type of a complex. And most of the universities have the good fortune of having enough real estate around it to do it. But Rob, to your point, and I would think that Butch and John would echo this, the passion right now for college baseball is unlike I've ever seen it. And for LSU fans, I mean, that go to Omaha, whether our team's in it or not, just to eat the brisket. And to bring our gumbo pots up there. I've never seen it. This is the time when collegiate baseball can really set itself up for the future for this type of a complex that you're talking about. Last year, in my opinion, was probably one of the greatest seasons in college baseball history for interest.
Yeah, and Coach, you were in Omaha. You felt it. You saw it. What do the people of Omaha do differently than other cities? Because they're never giving the World Series up.
Yeah, I mean, they fought for it. You have tradition in the footprint, right? So you have Rosenblatt Stadium, you have the zoo, you have all the merchants and the people that attach to each team. They've been doing it for so long that there's a tradition, there's a footprint, there's an expectation, and there has just been this steady wave of growth. Now you link that up with what Frank is just outlining and talking about, and you got something. And I just, as somebody that cares deeply about our sport, is in the middle of it too. Let's capitalize. Let's absolutely not just be an Omaha thing, but an NCAA thing, and a recognition of making that, because just like Truist Park, as you're talking about Truist, Frank, I'm sitting here thinking of Omaha's got the baseball field, but outside of there, there's as many people outside shopping, walking, cooking. And so it's really amazing. If you haven't gone, especially if you got a young son, I mean, the opening weekend of Omaha every year is Father's Day. And that's what is made. That's another piece that's not talked about near enough that's made Omaha so special. You got fathers from all over the country, like taking their sons to to Omaha, Nebraska, I mean, you can just see it. There's a father and a son, and a father and son. You can see those matchups all throughout the ballpark. But this is a time, and hopefully there's enough awareness and people are fighting for, because it is all about revenue, right? Well, my dad used to say, hey, when I would fuss and I would argue and I couldn't make sense of why this was happening and why people are doing it this way, he would say, shut up, boy. Think about money.
That's right.
And you go to the money first, and it was amazing how it saved me going down rabbit holes, because that's usually, if you think about that first, you get your answer. And so we have to continue to push forward, even if we're making $1. Somebody like John that's running something and trying to figure things out, he's not trying to hurt anybody. He's just, at the end of the day, his responsibility is centered around some of these things, and money becomes important. And we are closer with more teams in our league and more teams out of our league of getting closer to that. But that's what we have to strike to get the respect. But it is in a growth phase. And I just, if you build it, they'll come type deal.
Yes.
Hopefully, if we fill in this void here with something good and not miss this window, maybe we can get this sport finally where it needs to be, and we'd all feel great.
And Butch, how strong are our Gulf Coast states for baseball? Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama are some of the most fertile, rich soil for baseball players. And I mean, just look at the junior college situation in Mississippi. I mean, it's incredible what they've built there in the Magnolia State. It really is.
Yeah, and there's a ton of pride, right? I was talking about Mike Federico. The Mississippi boys stick together. There's not many of us, and we really stick together. Yep. Not unlike the Louisiana guys, but you know what? If you'll do something for me, if you'll expand and just the states you mentioned, if you'll just go ahead and say Georgia, Florida, and Texas,
well,
and now you've got the market. Now you got the market cornered.
Down in New Orleans, I believe. Right? Are you in New Orleans today?
I'm actually up in the North Georgia mountains here.
That background confused me. That looks like your chateau there in the French Quarter, and I'm waiting for the St. Aug 100 marching band.
On Monday, we're going in for Mardi Gras on Monday. Rhonda's parade is on Wednesday when she rides in Knicks, and then I ride in Bacchus on Sunday, and then we'll stay through and then get our ashes on Ash Wednesday and come on back. 40
days of no fried food. That's going to be tough. No Southern man could ever do that.
Believe me, I'm getting all my fried oysters and fried catfish in now.
Okay. All right. Coach, when we were going to the break, and kind of a sudden, you were making such a great point, and I know John Hartwell looking at the business side of it, and as a coach, you know that too. It's about the terms of endearment follow the money trail. And when you're talking, I mean, Tigers Unlimited is the fundraising arm of Auburn. They do a phenomenal job of raising money. Now we've got the NIL collectives. How is that working? Because I think you mentioned this last week, or we had Davis Babb, the CEO of IPTAY up at Clemson. They can't directly make things happen with what they get from, the money in regular fundraising. How different is that with NIL, and how much can that help the growth of baseball?
Yeah, I think it can help tremendously, really just for our student athletes, but you're going to get me in trouble talking about this type stuff. The NCAA, they were a little late to the party, right? They waited 21 months and put out some more thoughts really last Saturday. And so now they're saying you can't, the NIL collective, whatever that is, cannot communicate with a student athlete until they've signed. So they have to sign with a school. I really think these first 21 months, we've seen it activated and being used in recruitment.
Yeah.
And now they're saying that it can only happen after somebody signs. That's huge. Everybody needs to be knowing that. And then original intent, so some people are going to be the Yankees, some people are going to be the Royals, and everywhere in between from, what they're going to be able to offer. You don't forget now, baseball is an equivalency sport, right? So we've been operating off 11.7, whereas football, basketball is a full scholarship. So my hope and prayer for student athletes as a head coach for all these years is, man, could we get our guys to a full scholarship?
Sure.
Yeah.
College baseball players get there, and then, man, maybe they had $1,000 a month, 500, 250, whatever. I think my daughter's a law student. I give her $250 a month. That's what me and Robin give my daughter. And you better do good for that month. And you don't get any till the next month. That's how we're trying to get her operating in Birmingham, Alabama. But this thing took off as something else, right? And then, I'll even look at Auburn. I love our volleyball team because I have 3 daughters. But an Auburn volleyball player is starting so way ahead of a baseball player, even if NIL is hooked up and active, because that volleyball player gets a full scholarship. Yeah. That volleyball player gets the Austin money, which is about $6,000, plus they get cost of attendance, which Auburn University is about $5,250 a year. So a volleyball player is starting out $12,000 above full with zero NIL. An Auburn baseball player starting out between $15,000 and $20,000 in debt. Yeah. After the Austin, after cost of attendance, and with the baseball scholarship. So this thing has went from like, hey, maybe a starting pitcher in the SEC is worth $100,000. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, to really what we wanted was somebody, if a player was going to turn down $500,000 in the draft, if we could just get to the point where they would, if we could turn it down and they could get a full scholarship and maybe $1,000 a month, that's what I thought this thing was going to do. So we're staying about 3 months ahead. We're flexing. Like I said, the NCAA just put some stuff out. We can't our donors can't designate for our sport. Auburn does have a collective, so I'm not naive. I know there's very little that I can do, and having to wait till after they sign, I think is something appropriate to bring up this morning that is a big deal.
Yeah. That is a powerful statement that you just made. And I like what you said about, your daughter's in law school, I guess up at Cumberland, and you're giving her $250 a month. And this is, that's what I've been asking people. Are you giving more money to your school's NIL collective than you are to your own kids? I think that's a question a lot of people could ask. This is a text here from one of our listeners, Joe May in Tuscaloosa. He says, Coach, this is, whoever, but I'm going to ask you, how many pitchers do you have on your roster right now that are on full scholarship versus sharing? Or do you even give a full scholarship to a player on the team because it is an equivalency sport? Good question from Joe May in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a player on a full scholarship in 8 years. Now, I would think the last 2 or 3 years with the Austin money, I would say the last 2 years, that a couple of players, maybe 3 or 4, have been able to reach that mark with cost of attendance and the Austin money. So I think it's changed for the first time ever. Now, look, the Auburn baseball roster, they have more money than they've ever had before. And we were not, specifically for our program, Sonny DeShare was a co-SEC player of the year with Cruz last year. And, I know Sonny and his family probably paid 30% to go to Auburn. Yeah. So this is
as a lot of baseball players do.
Yeah, and this is our first onboarding probably this year. And the drive for NIL collective, you would think, would have to even go up, because now if we're going to enter our second year, you got another group coming, plus you have the second piece of retention. So
Yeah,
I don't, and I've heard the word, and I'm sure John's heard the word sustainable. I just don't know how sustainable this model is. But until that's figured out, I got to try to keep up with everybody in our league and around the country. I don't want to be, I want to be as close and competitive as we can be. But then, I have to stop there because I can't tell anybody to go
Yeah.
do anything because after 31 years, I want Auburn to fire me because I didn't win enough games. I don't want Auburn to fire me because I absolutely tripped over some mechanism of NIL. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Y'all have to watch your PDQs. I don't. This was ready, fire, aim from the friggin' beginning.
Yeah.
A mess.
Yeah, it is. And Uncle
A
Si
mess.
down in Monroe, Uncle Si, John Hartwell. If I were you, and Butch, you'll love it. John is on the way to take his daughter to an archery tournament today. And
Cool.
by the
Great
way,
sport.
and my daughter Hallie is going to take up archery, and she just moved to Richmond. But that is a great sport. I mean, women. My friend Boyd coaches the women's trap team at St. Mary's Episcopal School in Memphis. He's won 2 national championships. When you hunt with women, they are lethal, Butch and John and Frank. They are so easy to teach how to shoot because they're so much more relaxed than we are.
They
Gina
can
Davis
focus.
was an Olympian woman archer 12 years ago. They're very good.
It's been
Yeah.
John, you heard what Coach was saying about baseball's an equivalency sport. And, we know football's getting the bulk of the headlines with NIL, but every sport is eligible. Gymnastics, you name it. What kind of plan are you trying to put together at ULM? I know you're fresh, new boots on the ground, but you being an accountant, you make Howard Sprague look disorganized. You're so squared away.
Yeah. We've got a software platform that we are in the process of implementing. There's 3 or 4 companies out there, Open Doors, who, they give every student athlete. The nice thing about it is, not every student athlete is going to have, a lucrative deal, let's say, but they all need to have the opportunity to put their bio out there. And it matches them with potential
Sure.
or people who want to get involved. We don't have a collective yet, but certainly want to work towards that direction. But I want to pick up on one of the things Butch said. He made a great analogy: the Yankees versus the Royals. Us and Monroe, the Warhawks are probably a little more like the Royals, and Butch and the Tigers are like the Yankees. But here's the thing that's really important in all this, and I do hope there's some guardrails put on this thing so it doesn't get crazy out of control for just a handful of student athletes. But here's the thing, back to his analogy. Kids want to play. At the end of the day, if they are somewhere where they are riding the bench and they aren't getting the opportunity to play, it's going to take a lot of money to convince somebody, well, gosh, I'm going to ride the pine for 4 years or 5 years or whatever and just collect this check. And so that, from a strategy standpoint, whether you're a Sunbelt school, whether you're a Conference USA school, that's why in the recruiting process, it's so important. And I was having this conversation with our women's basketball staff yesterday. And, obviously their recruiting battles fought every day. And you win some and you lose some. But you know what? You better not burn any bridges with those kids because if you lose one of those battles and they go somewhere for a year or 2 and things don't work out, you might be right back in the pool with them. So, there are some things with NIL that we need to continue to work out. And, I was hopeful, 4 or 5 months ago that Congress was going to get involved and give some parameters to it. Because really the NCAA has been kind of rudderless, since Mark Emmert announced he was leaving. Obviously, we got a new incoming president of the NCAA, but the NCAA, and I'd say this if I were sitting in Indianapolis right now, every decision or lack thereof that is made, they're so scared of another lawsuit being filed, which, as you got, and Frank knows this in business, you can't conduct business being scared of getting sued.
No.
There are too many lawyers making too much money out there that you're going to get sued regardless. You just got to go with what your gut and what you think the most efficient and likely outcome is going to be. But I do hope there's some guardrails put on it at some point.
Yeah. And Butch,
It needs it.
I like what he just said. And, it's like in my wealth management practice, people worried about selling a particular stock position, about the taxes. And my attorney, Barry, used to say, don't let the tax tail wag the dog. And Coach, you look at what's going on in the big national picture. You talk to coaches around the country. What's the consensus opinion among the coaches that you talk to about NIL? What are we going to do with it?
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows. And I think probably, you get tired of hearing that. That's really not the answer. We got that a lot during COVID. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now with NIL, we get that line that seems so easy to throw out there. I don't know. So I think what everybody's doing is like, what is the best for me and my program? And you focus in on that. I think that's the best way to attack everything, probably since the beginning of time. So NIL is just another example of you absolutely should just, you're trusting people. I guess as a coach, it bothers us a little bit. It bothers me that like this is another area where you don't have control.
Oh, and it's great. It's great.
And
you don't want somebody coming in after the fact and saying, "Oh, you didn't do this right." Well, shame on you. You didn't set the parameters. It's too much the wild west.
Is somebody gonna pick? Like I'll give this kid's gonna get on this. You need to recruit. Is that stuff gonna start happening? It hasn't, but I fear. And then you know what? If somebody winds up in a collective somewhere across the country giving a kid a lot of money, and the kid don't pan out or he makes bad decisions, etc., doesn't develop in a certain way, doesn't get in the lineup as many times as they think for the investment that they made, they're not going after the student athlete. They're going after the coach.
Yeah.
So, I sat in a unique spot in that deal. The book, I would say, y'all were talking about archery a while ago. Mickey Dean, our softball coach, gave me a book, Chop Wood and Carry Water. That'd be a great book for anybody that's interested in. It's the samurai archers and how they trained, and they only shot at 7 feet for years before they'd let them go back and shoot those 100-foot targets.
By the way, same thing with a 38. You're gonna have to use that within 4 or 5 feet. That's where you need to be on the range, not trying to be 25 yards away.
Yep.
Yeah, it ain't like on TV. It's hard to do. Coach John Hartwell, are you still with us, John?
Yeah, I
okay,
got a couple more minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, along the lines of what Coach just said, it's a unique position. I can't imagine being a coach and a 17-year-old kid coming in that hadn't done a thing start telling me what to do. I never got my allowance till Friday, and I didn't get it on.
Grab yourself some laps on a stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a couple of minutes before the break, and
the foul lines.
Yeah, it's John. I know both you and Coach Thompson. You see this, and as fans, we look at it, and I look at it in the business world. Golly, when I was first starting out in the business 32 years ago, it's different than what I am today. It seems like we're going backwards, and people are expecting, they've got their hands out. That can't work long term. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, you make a great point there, Rob, and I really think and it's probably no different for Butch than all of us, in especially in Division I. Student athlete experience is something that you can control. You're not going to satisfy every kid all the time, and it seems like that gets tougher and tougher each week that goes by. But again, I think you've got to make sure that, hey, are we doing on a daily basis what we need to do to help student athletes, regardless of sport, be successful in the classroom, be successful in their individual sport, and ultimately provide them the experiences to help them be successful in life long beyond they swing at their last pitch or, kick their last field goal, whatever it may be. And we've got to do that. And again, going back to the thing about being afraid of getting sued, you got to understand in this business, just like most every business, regardless of what you do, somebody's going to have sour grapes and take an angle where, hey, we don't like how we were treated.
John, hold that thought. We can come back for a few more minutes before we let y'all go. I want to hear this, and I want to hear Coach Thompson's closing comments as well. Sidelines on the Saturday roundtable. Rob Browne, Frank Duffy, Butch Thompson, John Hartwell. More in a minute.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
And Hartwell, you were on a roll before we went to that commercial break, and I want to hear the rest of that, and then Coach Thompson's reply. And this is really, really good stuff, and cannot get it from people other than the real people.
Yeah, again, I just think to follow up, you've got to be, you got to control what you can control, and that's giving them the very best student athlete experience you can in all of those areas. And again, knowing that you're, especially in today's world with the transfer portal. Now, I do like what, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, what the Division I Council is doing, where it's making it still not going to be hard to go from institution 1 to institution 2. But if you go from 2 to 3, it gets a little bit harder. And, with today's society, if the stars aren't aligned exactly right, you go the path of least resistance with some kids. And I think, that's really an important lesson that we can teach all of our student athletes. Hey, life is not full of wins all the way around. I mean, baseball is the greatest example. If you're a 300 hitter, if you can hit the ball, if you can get a base hit 3 out of 10 times, you're going to be in good shape. And so I think that's really important lesson to teach our student athletes, but every one of them is not going to get it. They may not get it at the next institution either, but we've got to continue to do that.
Yeah. Coach?
No, I just think it's just round and round conversation. And I think you can just see the experience that John has in leadership is like, we're really brought here to love our players. If I'm not absolutely, if my parents don't believe in me and they don't trust me, and if I'm not trying to build the best relationship I am with players, I'm not worth my salt. I'm not even doing it for the reasons I got into it for. So I want to love my players. I want to win a championship, and I want our fans, everybody that cares about our program, for us to have a blast and do it together. And all these new pieces that keep coming in, we have to just try to juggle these and figure it out day to day on best how to handle it. But we have some pillars and rocks and some foundation pieces that you got to hang on for dear mercy right now until this whole thing is worked out. I apologize for a student athlete that's coming out right now, or to parents. I'm just saying, hey, hopefully, it's a weird place right now. We're kind of lost. We put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And will you just be patient with us? I want a player at Auburn to get as much as they can get anywhere else. That's not the deal. But just be patient with our industry for a minute, because I don't think it looks good for any of us the way
No.
this last 20 months has played out. So please hurry. Our leadership, Congress, and I think the other thing we brought up that's really causing a big halt to this, lawsuits. Yes. Every state, all 50 states, they all have a different law.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Until that is dealt with, I don't know where you can move, because Louisiana is different than Alabama. And
Yes.
Alabama is different than Florida, and California is different than all of us.
The wild,
So
wild west.
Until state law is dealt with, until Congress steps in, I don't know what we're doing except talking on the radio.
And Coach,
Yeah.
we were talking about that when you guys were going out to Omaha. Remember, Rob? We had your buddy who was the attorney on.
Yep.
Right when Coach was bringing the Tigers out to Omaha, we had that exact same conversation, and nothing has happened for 9 months.
Yeah. Well, that's an issue, Coach. What are the three things you have to be successful as a coach or run a business or a mission? Responsibility. You got to have that. That defines, what do you got to do? Authority, and that gives you the authority to make decisions, to play this guy or start this one or not play this one. And the third one is accountability.
Accountability.
How much work ethic do these kids that are coming in now have? Because I'm just going to take a wild swag here. You don't recruit kids that don't fit your culture anyway. So I would think you would pick up on that the first time you were around them and their family, correct?
Hope so. I've been right, been wrong. I've been recruiting for 30 years. But then, you know what? I'm going to say something. The kids in the SEC, Ron Polk has done an amazing job. He keeps up with everybody. The Ben McDonald's. I go around the league. I could just go every school and name a player or a coach at those schools that are just amazing young men. I can do the same thing with student athletes. My kids are amazing. They're absolutely a dream. I can put my head down, sleep at night. Do somebody screw up every now and then? Yes. But it's amazing. Just like always, 2%, 1%. That's what everything talks about. The 98% of these student athletes are graduating from these great schools, and they're absolutely going on to make a huge difference, because the ball ends for most all of them.
Yeah, 99% of them, they're not going on to the pros.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the 1% goes on, but I think our kids, they want accountability too. They want to be driven. They want to see how good they can get. They love this sport. And we are asking them to be patient, but it's amazing. Sometimes this 1-2% grab all the clicks and headlines, while there's still a lot going on good in our league. Our league is strong.
Yeah.
Tremendously strong. But all this stuff that's just out here floating in space is, boy, it's the minority. How many kids can drive big NIL deals at all these schools? Very, very few. Very, very few.
Yeah.
And most of these players on the baseball side, you're not going to get the phone calls that a lot of other sports are getting. They're good kids. I played baseball my whole life. Just some of the most quality people. You never want to meet good students because, again, they're not on scholarship. A lot of your players, especially in the SEC, are good students. They might get academic scholarships as well. So, yeah, no, your house is in very good order, Coach, as are the other SEC baseball, programs as well.
And that was another, Pete, Frank, you just hit on something that I want to say. I really, because of the limited scholarships, I feel like coaching the SEC at my 4 stops, it was like, all right, here's your players. You got your 11.7. And then the rest of the roster was filled with who could afford it.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to fill an entire roster of who deserves it. That's
Agreed.
what the NIL can absolutely do, where somebody like me that grew up in a trailer in Mississippi could absolutely, if I was good enough, could earn the scholarship, because we had the NIL provided more, as opposed to me having to go to junior college, which I would do 100 times again. But I would like to get a full roster before I leave this thing, where everybody got it because of their merit and ability to play, not just get to a certain number, and the rest of them is who could afford it. I would love that.
And the money's there. And the money's there in this collegiate sport, Coach. It's there. The passion's there. You saw it last year. You can't tell me that this isn't one of the big 3 sports in collegiate sports. It absolutely is. And it's a shame that baseball players have always been the second class citizens. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
Equivalency sport. I mean, they're Coach, I think there's 91 NCAA national championships. Number one, March Madness in terms of revenue. Number two is the College World Series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, football's its own business, right?
Yeah.
We all respect it. I all know my
Different
job's
animal.
better. My job's better. Football's better. I know when we talked about money a while ago, who makes it. When if you do a pie chart, it's 99% football and it's 3% everybody else. I've seen the chart. People's put the chart in my face. I've been in the SEC over 2 decades. I know what all that looks like. But that should be separate. You know, baseball's biggest challenge hadn't been all these new things coming on. It's been Title IX and how you count male versus female. I'm for Title. I have 3 daughters. I absolutely I got a soccer player and had a swimmer. I'm for it. And I'm saying let's just keep trying to find solutions with this. I want the girls to get just as much, and the baseball has taken a back seat, and now that we're growing, this is a good time to fix some things. If all this is in flux and changing right now, well, let's go ahead and change it all. Let's change as much as we can to make college athletics thrive for the next 25 years instead of die out.
Yeah.
And Coach, on a weekend when LSU is going to be playing South Carolina in women's basketball and they're undefeated and the interest is off the charts, you have a lot of people viewing in that game. Let's bring the women's side up. Let's not dilute the other men's sports with Title IX. Do it the other way. There's enough cash out there. This is a honestly, all of collegiate sports, probably $1 trillion business. There is enough cash in there to do that. And there's no reason why these baseball players should not get rides at these universities. Because let me tell you, Mississippi State and LSU and probably not Auburn right now because of the basketball program that Bruce Pearl has put in. But I will tell you, historically, over the last 25 years, after Dale Browne left LSU, I'll guarantee you the baseball programs of Mississippi State and LSU were more passionate than the basketball programs in those 25 years.
I don't think you can argue with that, Coach, can you?
No, I'm not. I'm shaking my head. I'm absolutely in agreement.
Yeah. Well, you know, and Coach, look, I know you're welcome to stay on as long as you want, and I appreciate you doing it because if you've got to go, I totally understand.
I got to go to work. I got to go to work.
I was going to say, if you've got to get off, we will. We do this roundtable discussion kind of laid back on Saturdays, and we'll get. So if you've got to go, I understand it, but I'm getting a lot of texts from people going, man, this is a great discussion with people. John Hartwell had to get off to go take his daughter to the archery meet tournament. But you're right. Now I got 2 boys, 2 girls. When I remarried, I got Mallory now. She went to Alabama. I still claim her, and she's a good girl. We love her. But you know, the thing is that when people talk about Title IX, it's not it's looking at it from a common sense thing. And football should be a separate island.
It is.
Those 85 scholarships. And then let everything else in the free market, you know, those things that are worth it, the private sector will embrace them. I'm still waiting for a initial public offering on Wall Street of solar panels. It ain't going to happen. So, no. But you look at college baseball, Coach, do you see the day when we have like that Saturday afternoon game with, you know, the fixture, Joe Garagiola, and a college baseball game at 2:30 p.m. on a major network, primetime SEC? That would be huge, or night, because ESPN's doing it in SEC network. But when you put it on CBS or ABC or NBC, it still takes it to another level.
Or even Friday Night Lights, the old Friday fights back in the day. That was the big night for fights. Well, why not college baseball on the opening of a game of a series in the SEC? Friday nights would be huge.
Yeah, and it's already that we've already seen. Yes, is the answer, but we've already seen what's happened to recruit nationwide. The SEC network has absolutely extended our reach. The entire country. Where, you know, there's a lot of people in California that absolutely are trying to get this way. And to be in the SEC right now, in my sport, I can report that kids from all over the country, they understand the SEC because opening day major league rosters, there's going to be 40 more former SEC baseball players in the #2 conference. And
Wow.
they see these crowds, they see this interest, they see that SEC network, they see the 2 schools that are coming soon. They see when it's their turn to have a seat at the table that this is where I want to be if I can. So the TV's already paid us very well. I'm not in the money. I'm simple, low-level coach. I think the SEC announced about $750 million in revenue and a share of about $49.9 million per 14 schools this year. It's going great, and I know the TV stuff is about to be anteed back up, and we got to keep baseball as a huge piece of this. But that SEC network and their coverage has absolutely been positive.
Yeah.
And Coach, that big bomber Sonny D and Dylan Cruz as the poster boys last year didn't hurt that image.
No, just Sonny's walk-up song captured college baseball. I mean, come on, for goodness sake. It's hungry. The growth is we're hungry for it right now.
Yeah.
I'm fired up, Coach, man. Let's go out there. Let's get the pitchers and catchers going. I'm ready to go, man.
Frank, when you go to Atlanta, you need to sit at Frank's seats at Braves.
I'm ready to go,
Truist
Coach.
Park. I'm going to hook you all up.
I can tell from last week that me and Frank are going to get connected here sooner as opposed to later. I could already feel that last week. So
you
Frank,
got it, brother.
out.
You know, we made a road trip for the LSU Auburn series 2 years ago, and had a blast. It was me and Dan Matthews, our buddy from 680, right?
Yeah.
Another big LSU baseball guy. And let me tell you, man, we had a blast. We sat out there in the stands, 2 of the games, and just really enjoyed ourselves. We love coming over to Auburn, to the Plains. It's a great baseball setup. It really is. Y'all have knowledgeable fans, which is really good. And look, there's some good-natured barbs going on back and forth, in the bleachers, because we're both knowledgeable baseball, fan bases, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Well, I just look at some leadership in the past. Skip Bertman, and then on Auburn's side, our winningest coach, Hal Baird. They did an amazing job of just setting a tone for the programs.
Yeah.
And Butch, I don't know if you saw it. A new book just came out about Skip. I think it was about 4 or 5 months ago. I haven't gotten it yet. I plan on getting it. I was in the bar business when Skip came back into LSU to take over the reins. And I tell you what, it was a breath of fresh air, and the Skip Bertman way was the way to do it. And 5 national championships was the result.
We're chasing it. Everybody in college baseball is chasing it.
Yeah, it's what you love, Coach. We run out of time, and I got to tell you, man, I love having you on here, and I get so many positive comments. Auburn people, but sports fans in general, going, "Damn, man, I wish he was our coach," but he's Auburn's coach, and Auburn needs to make sure his contract is renegotiated to make him paid for what he's worth, because it isn't just what you do for baseball, Coach. It's what you do for people, and I mean. That's you're an ambassador for college baseball, and Auburn people need to know how they can support you. We got about a minute before the break, and I know you got a big day ahead of you. Tell people how they can help you and follow you and come see a ball game in Auburn.
Yeah, the easiest way is Butch Thompson at auburn.edu. That's just my email address, and it's easy. And in any regard, any matter, SEC helping our program, just. People reach out. I just, I'm sure you have a feel, Rob, of how people digest or take in the show. I just enjoy being with you. And now, Frank, I've really enjoyed these last couple of weeks of visiting.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you something. For people, if you're wanting to make a gift in estate planning, you can specify a gift to Auburn Athletics, Tigers Unlimited, or whatever your school is, but you can do it while you are alive. And Auburn baseball will love you for it. Go meet Butch Thompson. In about 5 seconds, you'll pull your checkbook out. This guy's unbelievable. We'll be right back with more. Hour number 2, Sidelines. We're going to find excuses to win on Super Saturday.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn. Just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection. And they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you on this Saturday college football, basketball, baseball roundtable. And several people, I just got a text from someone said, hey, man, we got season tickets behind home plate. We're looking to add more. That is Dr. Waller May Veterinary Clinic, Tuscaloosa, Northport. Saturday, Sunday, any day of the week. You got dogs, cats, animals. You're going out of town. They got Camp May. They even have connecting cat condos. You need to check them out. Tuscaloosa and Northport, Alabama. Dr. Waller May, Dr. Guy May Veterinary Clinic since 1964. As good as it gets. And Frank, man, a lot of people were just texting me too, said, man, I love that guy. Frank, he's LSU guy. But like we do on this show, we pull everybody together. You know, Maury Gaston, thank you for the nice comments last weekend. He said, all these different fan bases, you know, we're talking SEC, Sun Belt, Memphis, Arkansas State, you know, Conference USA, Big 10, Pac-10, Pac-12, or what is it, Pac-8 now? It's going to be a six-pack pretty soon.
Packing in is what it almost
right.
would be.
Folding. But we talk ACC, we talk there's 32 conferences in America. You know, our footprint is in the Southeastern Conference, but we're going to talk about the college football, basketball, baseball, the great stories around the country. And it's just a lot of fun, but I'm with you, man. What they did at LSU is, Coach Thompson saying, can't believe that was 50 minutes. He goes, it just flew by. I mean, we could have talked to that guy for forever. I mean,
Coach Thompson's great. He is absolutely great. I can see why y'all recruit so many good players. I can see that. He's a guy that gets it. He understands being on the media, which is really good for, you know, building your program. No, he absolutely gets it. And look, he's a baseball gym rat, right? That's the best baseball people, the best baseball coaches, the best baseball players are the guys that they would pay you to go play on a sandlot. And that's my impression of Coach Thompson. And I think that's the way he runs the program. And I saw that when I visited 2 seasons ago and watched Auburn's ascent. I honestly thought I thought y'all were going to be the team that was going to take home the crown and not Ole Miss last year. And you remember Coach Thompson came on right before they were getting on the buses to go to the airport to go up to Omaha. Remember we had him on.
Yeah. And look, this is something really cool, Frank. You talk about college baseball history and tradition. Dave Cody, my friend of 40 years, was the sports anchor in Austin for 37 years. And just went to the College World Series 1985, 87, 91, and 93 with Cliff Gustafson's Longhorns. Yeah, he always picked up the tab at Mr. C's restaurant after UT's final game, and usually that was in the championship. My first sports cameraman at KTBC TV, Jamie Ortiz, was a bat boy for Gus at South San Angelo. RIP Coach Gus, age 91 and a life well lived. 22 conference championships in 29 seasons at Texas and 17 College World Series appearances. Thanks for the info, Bill Shining. Well, that is really cool. Photo credit, San Antonio Express News. Get this, in 29 seasons at Texas, again, his teams won the Southwest Conference 22 times, qualified for the College World Series 17 times. That is powerful. Thank you, Dave Cody.
Yeah, beast. And not all of them were Roger Clemens. So, I mean, they had great consistency and continuity on those, especially in the 80s. I mean, and the early 80s through the mid. I mean, you had to go through Texas if you want to take home the big prize. You did.
Yeah, you did. And you look
them
at
in Arizona State. Great programs out there at that time.
And that's, Frank, that's what we watched with Southern Cal, My goodness, they were so strong. Long Beach State, Cal State, Fullerton. When the SEC, when baseball really gained track, baseball's always been popular in the South. But when the SEC recognized it could be a revenue generator, that was like the chancellor of the exchequer over in England was not interested in the electric steam engine until they realized they could tax it, and then they started putting money into it. So
yay.
Yeah, the town crier up there, But
let me tell you something. SEC schools absolutely love the turnstile cash that comes through at these now cathedrals for college baseball. Yeah. With the exception of one or two of the SEC schools, every one of these stadiums right now are just so impressive. And you got to throw even in Hoover as well.
Oh yeah.
Which is a great time for the SEC, championship tournament. I mean, look, it has arrived, and all you had to do was watch last year. There was so much excitement about college baseball. Rob, you, me, and Jimmy, and our guests did probably 5 shows that were all baseball heavy in that month of late May and June. And so it's awesome. I mean, those of us, especially LSU people, we love our baseball. Don't get me wrong. Football will always be king. I would not try to insult the intelligence of the listener to say otherwise, but let me tell you, baseball is a damn close second down on the bayou. And I tell you what, we're excited about this year. We're ranked number 1 collegiately going in. Now, how you go in is not how you finish. But I cannot wait for baseball to start. Those first series. In fact, it's coming up. I think the first series is this week coming up.
It is. Because John Hartwell was talking about that.
Yeah,
and
first week.
Look, it's here fast. Our good friend Billy Roberts. My God, his baseball knowledge.
Great friend.
Again, you and me, and when Billy's on here, I call y'all Bravesologists. Braves fans are not fans. It's Braveology. It's a myth. It's a cult. Billy pointed out a couple of years ago, we're over there at his house. Audrey and I are watching when the Braves were in the National League Championship Series against the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And, Billy said, look, the payroll for the Dodgers is over $250 million.
Yeah.
Liberty Media only allows the Braves to spend $148 million.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
So when Dansby Swanson, who's from right there in Marietta, played at Vanderbilt on the 2014 College World Series National Championship team, he's been there a while, and his contract, he went to Chicago, 7 years, $175 million. The Braves just weren't willing to do that. They're really good with their money, it seems like, because they don't have unlimited funds like the Yankees have historically. But Frank, as a, Duffy Realty, 21st year, you've sold over 45,000 homes in the greater Atlanta area. You better.
That's my day job. I get to come do this for fun on the weekends. That's our day job.
And the weekdays as well when you're not traveling or whatever.
Right.
But you got to manage the money. It's really difficult. Yeah. But the Braves do a hell of a job.
Rob, Alex Anthopoulos, in my opinion, is the best front office guy there is. I mean, he took over for John Coppolella with all the the issues that we had, and we lost the ability for signing minor league players because of some of the improprieties that John Coppolella did.
Yeah.
So Alex stepped in, and from day one, he has made just incredible moves. We don't have a World Series without him going and putting on, Jorge Soler, just Rosario. I mean, there was so many moves that he made late that year, and he's not willing to, forfeit the future for the here and now. Though when he sees an opportunity, if it's within his financial restraints, he will put players on. And those moves at the deadline 2 years ago got us a World Series. And you could see it coming. I actually went out. I took all the 680 fan guys, our good buddy Dan Matthews and Brian Hoyt, one of the engineers, out to Arlington, where they were in the bubble playing the Dodgers in the NLCS in the RV, right? We road tripped out there. In fact, we left the station after the show ended at 7:00 that one night, and we were out there the next morning for Buc-ee's. Dan went in and got us brisket egg burritos, right? That was our breakfast in the parking lot at Arlington Stadium. We were there for the 2 games. One, the Braves got waxed, but then the other one that they won, and we really thought there was a chance that they were going to take control of that series. Didn't. The Dodgers won it. But you could see the groundwork that was being laid for that World Series team. And look, 5 straight divisional titles will tell you somebody's doing something right. Now, our minor league farm system has been downgraded, but that's okay because we've brought all these guys up and we've given them great lifelong contracts. Look at the contract that Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, who just got married this weekend, actually, wound up getting long-term contracts that are great for the Braves. We could, as Braves fans, like Billy Roberts says, my fellow Braveologists, we're happy where we are right now. And look, you can't pick a better facility than the Braves have put in place. And it will be, like I said in the first hour, the footprint for every major league complex going forward. It is like what Camden Yards was in 1995.
Yeah.
It is now the next iteration of Camden Yards.
Yeah. And speaking more LSU information from Dave Cody, said LSU fans are the best in Omaha. Always let us tailgate with them prior to College World Series games. Gumbo, jambalaya, boudin. Oh my God. He said,
and let me tell you something. You want some good gumbo when it comes off piping hot at about 115 degrees, and you're sitting there in Omaha and it's the middle of June. And let me tell you something. There have been some hot days up in Omaha, brother. And look, we still have lines out the wazoo for our gumbo. And look, our buddies over in Lake Charles will tell you, there is never a shortage of people standing in line for LSU tailgates. And that's the cool thing. We tailgate even when LSU's not there. There was a ton of LSU people there to support the SEC last June.
Yeah, that's something. Again, hell yeah, we got rivalries. That's what makes this stuff fun. But I think it's because of respect. You don't want to beat people and become passionate and hate them, whatever you want to say. That's because you respect them deep down inside.
I'll fist fight with my brother all day long, but don't let some other kid come into the yard and do it.
Yeah, especially if you're from the Big Ten. Ooh, that'll get people mad. But hey, Buddy Martin, GatorBaitMedia.com is going to be on with us in just a minute. Just sent me a text. Check your email. Big news about HBC, the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Big news. It's good news. It's great news. Everybody should be so blessed. And they dedicated a street to him yesterday in Gainesville. Buddy's going to tell us about that, what's going on. That humbled that man. I just looked at the picture, was reading some of the comments. We love these coaches that have been around and been doing it a long time. They're successful because they surround themselves with great people. And you talk about the Braves organization. So remember Bobby Beathard, longtime NFL player personnel director, GM, what have you.
Washington. Yep.
Yeah. And you think about the 49ers for 20 plus years, how consistent the DeBartolo family was in that organization. And, the DeBartolos, a little bit of trivia that only Frank, you, I, and everybody listening and watching on Sidelines will know. They developed the first ever shopping mall in America. Raleigh Springs Mall up in North Memphis. And it's still there. It's on, teetering life support.
Now, I know Eddie Sr. did that. That's exactly where they made their money.
And you know where they're from, don't you?
Where?
One of the toughest towns in America. The home of the Youngstown State, Ohio Penguins.
Oh, wow.
Youngstown, Ohio. That's a tough town.
Tough town. You're
That's
right.
where Maurice Clarett was from. Jim Tressel. We got to get him on this show. That's a cool coach. Hell of a coach. The last of the, Gus wore the sweater vest, but he didn't win like Jim Tressel did. When you win like Jim Tressel does, you can wear the sweater vest, and I'm not going to give you a hard time. But if you don't win a lot and you wear a sweater vest, man, all bets are off.
By the way, Rob, I went to the Tulane UCF game last year in Ullman, and I kind of moved around the stadium just to get a good look of it. I really, again, as an LSU guy, I am a Tulane fan as well, being a ball boy here in New Orleans in the 70s. And I liked watching them. Well, I was right. I kind of got toward the end of the first half, and UCF was coming off the field right where I was. And there goes Gus in his visor and his sweater vest. I was like, my buddy Rob could have called this one to a T.
Gus is an interesting character, and he loves the sweater vest. To me, like you can wear a down vest, because it'll keep your core warm.
Yeah.
But I've got on a vest right now from Tom Beckby. But you know what? Your arms are going to get cold. That if you're hunting, but I still think if you're wearing a nice warm shirt, you can. But on the sidelines as a football coach, now they used to wear a coat and tie, and now they just wear, they just kind of dress casually. But in college basketball, they used to always wear a suit. Now they all look like, the guys on Goodfellas, just
with the warm-up.
Sopranos. Yeah, those warm-up suits. I mean, it's not a good look. Some of those guys, they're really swollen up over the years. And the suit.
Well, if you don't have to wear a belt and a suit, you don't have to. That expandable waistline's been working for them.
Absolutely, it is. But I'll tell you what, this discussion on NIL, college baseball, and everything, you're going to see. I will tell you right now, some of the top coaches in America, they're not just. You watch what's happening. They're going to start staying away from the top 15, top 20 players because they've got these handlers around them, these parasites that don't have their best interest at heart. And you're going to see a lot of pushback. Now, what'll happen is you may avoid them on the first go around. They'll go somewhere else, and then you'll pick them up on the down low, at a discount, because
once life has taught them a lesson or two.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, Frank, you have 3 friends, LSU business owners in the state of Louisiana that all invested in NIL. What happened with those 3 student athletes that they invested in by the end of last season?
All 3 quit before the end of the season.
There you go.
Which one it was, but they all 3 quit.
Yeah. And I'm telling you what, kick boutte is what I say. I've got no time for these people that expect me to give them a paycheck, including my own 4 children. You know what? Earn it. Anything worth having in this life is worth fighting for. We'll be right back. More Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
We dig the smell of fresh dirt in the morning. ECS House Industries located right in the heart of the Delta. Yeah, Cherry Valley, Arkansas. So already starting to see some fields. They're draining the water, pulling the water off, getting the fields plowed up. About a month or so, maybe a little earlier, you'll start seeing the planting. But ECS House Industries, the leader. Also, they make the aerators for the catfish farms that you see all over the place. It's called aquaculture. Catfish, tilapia. It is big time. And that is our great friend Chad House, ECS
Huge.
House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. Let's head down to Ocala, Florida, where the limestone in the soil makes that the number one, the premier place in the world for great horses, great journalists, and great regular guests on Sidelines like Buddy Martin, who we love from GatorBaitMedia.com. And there's a little something happened. They named a street after some guy that we've all heard of before yesterday. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, good morning, Rob, Frank.
Hey.
Good morning to you.
Morning.
And you forgot to say that limestone also helped you become a great quarterback in high school. I've been saying,
Yeah.
I've been saying,
Yeah,
I don't know who that was, but you know,
That was you, Wilton.
yeah. Hey, by the way, just to tell this story about the street name, it was really quite an event last night for those who don't know what I'm talking about. And I know a lot of you have Spurrier overload. I'm sorry. I've known the guy for 60 years, and he's a special treasure to us. And last night out at Celebration Point at the Spurs Grand Grill, Freddie Weaver did a fantastic job of bringing people together to name the street after Steve, sanctioned by the state. It's now Steve Spurrier Way.
Love it.
And but I want to say I was honored to be there, honored to be one of 4 or 5 people asked to just say a brief word about Steve. And at first, I thought about just what we need. One more thing named after Spurrier, right? It's got everything else in it. The stadium and the high school field and a restaurant and up in South Carolina, the facility, which is named after Jerry and his wife and Steve. And then I thought, well, you know what? It's okay. I don't care if they change the name of the town to Spurrierville. Because look, who in the world in the history of college football has done more for their university than Steve Spurrier? I mean, forget about the idea that this guy came to pretty much a wasteland of football. I grew up with it, and then turned into champions, and then not only plays great, wins the Heisman, leaves, come back and wins the team's first SEC and national championship. And here we are honoring Steve.
Of it.
Yeah, the totality, right, Frank? So I finally said, look, I surrender. As far as I'm concerned, they should take I-75, which started up in Knoxville and Johnson City, and brought us Steve Spurrier here, and name it the Steve and Jerry Spurrier Expressway, because that's how big he is, man.
Yeah.
And it was a special night. I mean, Danny Werfel was there. Chris Doring was there. Jeremy Foley, who hadn't was there. James Bates, Judd Davis. It was all open to the public outside in front of Spurrier's Grand Grill. And what a moment it was for everybody. And just want to say I was honored to be there, to be a part of it, a small part of it. Coach Spurrier, it's hard to get much better than that.
No,
that's awesome.
I saw the picture. I was just looking. I was reading that email during the break. That's big stuff, and that impact that he made, it gets stronger over the years.
Yeah.
And he's proud of it. And I think he made everybody at Florida up their game. And the standard is never gonna roll back, buddy, ever again. From what he built, 12 years. 6, really 7 SEC championships and a national championship and another one where they lost to Nebraska. But what they do the next year, they came back, and to make it even sweeter, they beat their biggest rival, Florida State, in the national championship.
New Orleans. New Orleans.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I want to say that, and again, I get too effusive about this, but I'm just excited. I love Jerry. I think Jerry, his wife and Steve said it last night. He's right. If there was a Coaches, Wives, Hall of Fame, Jerry Spurrier is first ballot. She is incredible. What a woman she's been, and such a big part of his success. But I said last night, let's be honest. We all like to have something named after us, right? I mean, nice. I always wanted a street named after me. I built a house on Martin Avenue, thinking I could claim that, but they wouldn't let me do that because it's already Martin Avenue.
Love it.
And then the late, great Bino Cook.
Yeah.
My friend, he worked for me for about a year and a half in St.
Oh, wow.
Pete.
I didn't know you knew it.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Bino was Bino. I had a noble experiment. I tried to make him a sports writer. I failed, but we tried.
He was great on camera.
Oh, I said, Bino, if you could only write like you talk, well, we'd be great. But Bino, he loved to pull off his one-liners, and he'd use them over and over again, and he'd laugh at his own one-liners. And one of his favorites would be, he'd say, "Hey, buddy, yeah, they named a street after you." I've always wanted to stress it. "Yeah, Bino, what was it called?" And I knew the answer. He said, "Dead End." Ha 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 ha. That was nice. And I said, "Bino, they named one after you. It's called One Way."
That's great.
Man, I tell you, buddy, speaking of Bino Cook, I think that CBS or ABC, ESPN, totally missed the boat. They should have had the two of y'all on the set talking college football. That would have been fun.
Well, that's awfully kind of you to say. And then Bino did do a show for a while there. And he's just a treasure. I can quote your Binoisms all day long. The clipboard I keep right here, it's called the Bino Cook clipboard because he wrote everything down the clipboard. I said, "Bino, you got the interview set up. It's right here on the clipboard. I got it right on the clipboard. It's on the clipboard. It's like in stone."
That's awesome, man.
And we need more characters like that, Frank. We need more characters like that. LSU's had a few over the years. But anyway, just a grand fella and a wonderful experience. And thanks for letting me share it with you. One last thing. When you win a national championship someplace, it's a pretty good chance they'll build a statue to you, right?
Yeah.
What do you do for somebody who's won a Heisman that got a statue and break the school is first? I mean, Spurrier ought to have two statues for crying out loud, not just one. Anyway,
yeah. Well, hey, speaking of Spurrier, Dave Cody, listener, Bellingham, Washington, texted me. Steve Spurrier gave my brother an autographed copy of his book and signed it. To my favorite receiver, he wrote, my brother Bill Cody, All-American in Auburn, intercepted him in Gainesville and returned it for a touchdown.
I saw it.
He also recovered Spurrier.
Don't bring that up around here, okay? Cody's a public enemy.
Well, I'm telling you, though, Steve Spurrier, there's also stories that people don't hear that much, but I read one time what he did for Pat Sullivan, my childhood hero. I still got my number 7 jersey autographed by him. When he was diagnosed with cancer, Steve Spurrier helped him get into the Shands Hospital, the cancer treatment center down there. And Pat Sullivan lived another 17 years, thanks to a lot of prayers and all. But Steve Spurrier and David Housel wrote about that behind the scenes. We all talk about, we want to beat this team and that team. He goes, he's got a lot of people in a lot of places that love him, and you're one of them, but that needs to be known. There's a lot of great stories about it.
Well, he's done that for a few people, including Lou Holtz's wife, and he quietly does it. And he does those kind of things. And Steve's not a saint. He makes his fair mistakes, number of mistakes, stuff. But he's one quick story about Rob Jordan, the famous field goal. And Frank, you might know about this. I know Rob does. That when Spurrier, was not a field goal kicker. He kicked a few. I think he kicked 2 in his life. And when they were playing Auburn in Gainesville and had the ball about the 30-yard line on 4th down and 5 or whatever it was, Spurrier ran off the field, didn't even talk to his coaches, went to the sideline, has a special zipped-up shoe, put the shoe on. Now we're thinking, and the press was like, what is he doing? He can't get a field goal this far. What is it? And so goes back on the field, and they said to Shug Jordan, Spurrier's putting on a shoe. Shug Jordan putting on a shoe. He might kick the field goal. And Coach Jordan said, I hope the athlete doesn't, because he'll probably make it.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
You knew something was up.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, here's the thing about Spurrier that I find really interesting is so many fan bases got so angry at the way that he would beat them in the 90s, especially Georgia, especially around here in North Georgia. Oh my gosh. They would just wring their hands. But here's the funny thing about Spurrier. Once Spurrier got out of coaching, he was really beloved by many fan bases. The same fan bases that used to hate getting beat by him, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that Nick Saban's going to have that sort of
good point. That's a good point.
That sort of feeling with other fan bases when he's done that Steve Spurrier did. There was just something Huck Finn about Steve Spurrier that even when he was beating your butt, you admired him, his tenacity, he wouldn't let his foot off your throat. Good luck. Those keys started jingling in Ben Hill Griffith Stadium in the second quarter, and you knew you were done. That's the thing about Spurrier that I really have kind of marveled that he has become the HBC and a very revered place by many fan bases in the SEC.
In turn, and this, I know I'm sorry if I belabored the point. When he went to Florida, they said, we got to move the Florida Georgia game out of Jacksonville. This is some of the brass. And he said, why? He said, because we're not winning there. He says, well, look, it's played in Gainesville, in Jacksonville, on Florida soil in the Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was called. He said, why can't we win there? Yeah. No. So he proceeded to go out and win 11 out of 12.
Correct.
Yeah. That's all he did. Yeah. Now,
by the way, he knew it was not a neutral site. That was a water site.
Of course. It's more neutral now because the Bulldogs kind of own the territory. But anyway, but think about it. I asked Steve the other day. He saw Kirby Smart. For all the Bulldogs that hate Spurrier, and there are many, he saw Kirby Smart at the Heisman ceremony. He said he talked to him. And I said, what did you talk? He said, we just talked about the program. And he said, I really have a lot of respect for Kirby. And I said, I like the way he coaches. Mm-hmm. He says he's a visor guy. Kirby wears his visor still. Mm-hmm. First guy to do that was who? And he said, he's a visor coach. He said the Bulldog fans still give me a lot of crap for it, but I don't care. I'm going to keep wearing it. and he said, I like Kirby by the way he coaches. His players don't hit you late out of bounds like some do. He coaches clean. He says he really is a fan. He said, I know Gator fans won't be happy, but I like Kirby Smart a lot.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't? I mean, he is a guy that, grew up in South Georgia. I think in Bainbridge. His father was a
Bainbridge
high school football coach right down there near the Florida-Georgia line. Thomasville, Bainbridge, Moultrie. I mean, Tifton. Valdosta. And he probably listened to Florida games on the radio growing up. So I think that is cool when you talked about it. And Steve Spurrier, he connects so many people. And Frank's right. I think what he did in the 90s when they were beating people, he said, look, we're not trying to run the score up. That's on y'all to stop us. But, you can't tell your third team guys in the fourth quarter to fall on the ground instead of running in for an end zone, because that's a memory they're going to have for the rest of their lives. They scored a touchdown in a college football game. And I think that just is what people say when they're frustrated and they don't feel like they're in control. But I think it's been an amazing run for him. Buddy, got to ask you this. Friends Beard and you, we talked about that Jaden Rashada NIL deal that blew up. If those numbers are true coming out, this kid is a 4-star from Pittsburgh, California. He's gone to Arizona State. That's where he's signed for right now. We don't know where he'll be next year. I don't know if he'll come back to try to, strong arm Florida again, but I'm really glad. I'm not wishing bad on Florida, but as friends said, we need more crash and burns like this to get NIL in perspective and get this stuff under control.
Cautionary tales.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. It's easy to pick out the villains here We all know it's ridiculous. We don't know how. We just had a long story. Had a long story about it last week by Brendan Martin and Kyle Curtis and our staff. And we just kind of recap what we thought we know, which is hard considering nobody's talking. We did find two groups that would talk, but not let us attribute it to them. Without going to a long, deep dive on it, bottom line is there's Gator Collective, which is painted as the enemy. And I'm not so sure they were based on what we know. They were part of it. Richard Farr is part of it. A guy who was a lawyer, Darren Heitner was part of it. Butch Booster was part of it. And they got to one of those feeding frenzies where they wanted to get this guy really bad. Consequently, by the way, Rob, I don't have your password. I don't know what it is. I don't have I don't know what it is, so I can't do
I got
it.
it. I'm gonna look it up. Okay.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
And
Anyway,
by the way, buddy, it smelled a lot coming from South Florida as well.
yeah, well let's just call it what it is. Ruiz was a guy with big bucks, guy, a lawyer who was spending buying his players up right and left. Everybody knew it. And then it got to a point where Florida lost a bunch of guys and they thought they had a chance. And they said, we got to get in the money game. I'm just interpreting here.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so they got an over-anxious booster who got a hold of an over-anxious lawyer who got approval from somebody at the university, nobody will say, to make an offer. And whoever made the offer, they were trying to match and duplicate whatever what Miami did, and it got out of control. And at the end, the people at Gator Collective pulled the plug on it. Said, you can't do this because it doesn't follow the guidelines. He's not in school and whatever. He said, and so they voided the contract. And then said, oh, Florida ridiculous, the deal. And so everybody was pointing fingers like this. But
I think Miami comes out the loser in this.
They're certainly one of the parties, but Florida didn't handle it well. They did not handle it well. And it's embarrassing. Now, in law, this would be a precedence. This would be a case they'll talk about forevermore. They don't want another Rashada case. And there's going to be because it's out of control. And by the way, last thing, who runs and owns college football?
The fans.
Yeah, well, let's remind them it's not the boosters.
Yeah, hold those thoughts. Hold those thoughts, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. And I love that, what you just said. It is the fans and it's the free market. More with Buddy Martin, Frank Duffy, Rob Browne, right after this. Buddy, we're talking about, what happened with Miami and Texas A&M as well last year. They were almost bragging, a lot of their fans were, about how much money they were giving out on NIL like candy. And both of those teams were sub 500.
Yeah, that stopped halfway through September.
Yeah. And I think the money and what some of the new guys were supposed to be getting, the veteran players weren't, whatever. I think they crushed morale and fractured the locker rooms to the point where they couldn't do anything to save them. And I don't think that's going to be fixed overnight. Do you? And Buddy, Frank, whoever wants to answer that.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think that's the biggest worry about this NIL stuff is the cancer that can go on inside locker rooms. And you saw it at Texas A&M. You absolutely saw it. Jimbo lost that locker room. And I don't think it was just the losses. I think there was jealousy. I think there was envy. At least a couple of the 7 deadly sins were on display in College Station. And it opens up Pandora's box. I mean, you can't be the guy that's out there busting his butt, the backup left guard and prima donna wide receiver who's not showing up at practice. Got a new Jag sitting in the parking lot. It's a bad precedent. It is, and I get that the free market's going to drive it, but there has to be some parameters that are set in this, and it has to be a little bit of equity for these kids. I mean, it does. Let's put it this way. It would be good from a business standpoint to make sure that all of your employees get to benefit and get to be rewarded from the success of your operation, at least from a business standpoint.
Yeah, and we don't know yet how deep this goes. If you look at the test cases and look at the transfer portal, look what TCU did in the transfer portal. My gosh. Yeah. Some people were enormously successful, showing a way, in a way, it's a good thing. It's like free agency was in baseball. Everybody hated it, but fans want their team to be fixed now. And this is a way to get their team fixed. Now, it's hard. It's hard on the coaches. They hate it, but it was mandated by the courts. Okay, so it is. Yeah. And on the other side of that coin, there's a lot of good football players that get trapped, get stuck somewhere and can't get out, and they would put them in jail. Yeah. Not literally, but would let them play someplace else. Yeah. That's not right.
We were in the SEC championship game because of one thing: the portal. There's absolutely no doubt.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's and they did it quite well. Like, let's give them credit where credit's due. I mean, and they did one of the best jobs on the portal. Florida didn't do quite as well. The question is, do you want to build your team through college kids? Whatever, or do you want some help from the scene? I mean, Graham Mertz, who Franz likes to refer to as the son of Ethel and Fred, of Mertz. He started 32 games in Wisconsin. Now, he's not going to win the Heisman Trophy. Okay, we know that. But experience does matter.
Sure does.
And I think you get an experienced quarterback, even if you get him in the house and put him in the quarterback room, just in case. We see quarterbacks getting hurt in the SEC every year. So you better have more than one. So I don't know how good the kid is. Then the offensive line, Florida's got, they went out and got a bunch of big dudes. I mean, we're talking 6'5", 6'8", 350, huge guys going to the offensive line. What's Billy Napier going to do? I think I can figure that out. Run the football, right?
Yeah.
You say, well, why do that? Florida. Well, here's one thing, and I talked to Coach Spurrier about this too. If you can run the football, you can dictate the game. You can run the ball. You got play action on your side.
You set the terms.
Right. So I've never been a big run it guy. And by the way, Spurrier, if you look up his record, people think, well, he just threw the ball out of the park, and he did.
He ran a lot.
In the second half, they ran more than they passed. Look it up.
Yes.
Took the air out. Yeah. So anyway, we all know that. How about Auburn, man? They're making some noise there. Rob, I mean, they're talking about this team being a contender in the West.
Yeah, well, it's because what Hugh Freeze did. I mean, for 2 years, they weren't doing anything in recruiting.
Yeah.
And now, and with the portal, I think they had the number 4 ranked class in the portal. And in recruiting, they're getting some guys to flip. And they've got some people they've brought in on the staff that know how to recruit. And previous staff from the top understand it, and they control the tempo. But Hugh Freeze knows the SEC. He's familiar with it. He's won before at Ole Miss. He's got unbelievable resources at Auburn. The recruiting base within 250, 300 miles is among the best in the country. So, Jason Caldwell said yesterday inside the Auburn Tigers that with Harsin coming back for his 3rd year, he thought Auburn might be lucky to win 4 games. Now, with what Freeze has done in this staff and the portal and recruiting and moving some guys around, things are looking better.
8, 9, 10, maybe.
I think eight is definitely doable. 8's definitely doable.
Changes the narrative, and I think Hugh Freeze is going out to all the big players and saying, "Look, come to Auburn," and he's going to Phoenix City Central. He's going out. He's going back into Georgia, which is what you got to do. And Ryan Kelly,
nobody was going out for 2 years.
Yeah,
nobody was going out on the recruiting trail, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at Alabama. No, I'm with you. And you look at Alabama with Nick Saban. I think one of the things Alabama's got to be very careful of is how many of those former coaches that were with Will Muschamp at South Carolina are on the staff at Alabama. You better be very careful that you don't bring in coaches, these coaches that are the Lincoln Riley generation that are too cool for school, that wear the hoodie T-shirt. You better be careful with those guys because a lot of them, they've never suffered. You get a bunch of 29, 30-year-old coaches on your staff, and you better watch it because and as the head coach,
you better get some Philip Lollies on there.
Yeah, I want some Philip
old
Lollies
coaches on there.
Yeah, I want Philip Lolly on my staff.
Yeah.
You better have you some coaches that are tough. And I'm going to tell you what, Alabama, I think, made one of the best offseason hires of anybody by bringing Kevin Steele back.
Yeah, Kevin Steele. He's that old school guy. Yeah.
Kevin's tough, man. He knows how to do things, and he'll get your attention. And if you don't want to play by his rules, you're out of there. He's going to help Nick Saban. I don't know that much about who they hired. Tommy Rees from Notre Dame as offensive coordinator.
30 years old and very well regarded. My friend John Fenner, who covers Notre Dame for the AP, was very high on him.
Yeah.
And he was a good player. And here's the thing. You think 30 years old. They got guys and offensive coordinators in the NFL look like they're in high school.
Oh, yeah.
But these kids look, it's unbelievable how young they are. Unbelievable. And they had coaches, too.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. There's no –
Yeah.
I think Nick Saban knows enough about the game to hire the right coordinators.
But I will say, I don't know if this is just, sour grapes from Notre Dame people that I know. Mm-hmm. They think it was a stretch for Saban to put him in that position.
Well, they sure had no problem having him coach in Notre Dame. Now they don't think he's going to go. Come on, man.
Yeah,
both ways.
That's why I said I couched it where it might be a lot of South Bend sour grapes.
Yeah,
but a bad vintage.
Yeah, well, of course.
And I think they're frankly still smarting from us getting, their coach 2 years ago.
No doubt. And it's damage control. They got to do something. What are they going to say? And so it's a very key. There's so many young. Gosh, guys, have you? Well, we didn't mention the biggest news of the week, which is they're going to go ahead with Oklahoma and Texas in 24.
Yeah,
which is incredible. And have you seen some of those things people are drawing up? The West versus the East. Now, first of all, there probably won't be a West East.
No.
I saw one yesterday. The Alabama over in the East and Missouri in the West with Oklahoma and Texas. I think, man, I wouldn't want to be in that.
I'm signing up for that right now, buddy.
Yeah, I know. You like that one. And LSU's got a bunch of pretty good teams in that West, too, including Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And A&M. Yeah, you're right.
A&M, so.
Buddy, here's a question for you. Yesterday it came out, SEC distributed $49.9 million to the member schools.
Mm-hmm.
And is that somebody told me that's the third straight year that number has declined. And we keep hearing these big talk about, 60, 75, 80, 100 million a year.
Right,
now,
right.
I'm assuming, I'm going to take a swag here, scientific wild ass guess, that is because after this year, CBS will no longer be getting away paying $55 million. ESPN, Disney will be $300 million plus in the TV contract, plus Oklahoma and Texas are coming in. That's where all this talk, because you look at what the Big Ten is getting and their TV deal. Man, the SEC, the Big Ten has 70% of the nation's television sets live in their geographical footprint. Has the SEC been one-upped by the Big Ten?
That's a good question, and a lot of people think they have, especially when they pulled off UCLA and USC, and coming out of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to call myself a prophet, but I've been saying for 25 years the Super Conference is coming, and we got it. We're going to have it, even if it's Big 12's in or something. Big 12's got enough pretty good teams to San Diego State. They got UCF, Houston. They're going to be better, but it's going to be a Big Ten SEC. And look, as the price goes up in the Big Ten, eventually it goes up in the SEC too. So I wouldn't cry about the money they got. And by the way, Florida lost. I saw their profit loss for the first time. Lost again, $5 or $6 million in their program, in their athletic program. which is unusual for Florida, which usually makes so much money they give the academics $10 million. So that was the Dan Mullen buyout. I wish they could finally stop doing those buyouts. It's incredible. It's stupid. Yeah. Remember Louis Gozard's quote, "I'm going to find a woman that hates me and buy her house." I think what they're doing in SEC is that I'm going to find a coach I hate and fire me to pay me millions of dollars. It just seems like everybody's getting that deal, I mean, I could walk away on 10, 12, 15, 20. I could walk away with $1 million for that matter. Yeah. But it's a bad precedent. It's out of control, and nobody's going to be able to stop it.
Well, here's another thing: what Jimmy Sexton and sports agents do, is that you get, let's say Jimmy Sexton has a bunch of young coaches that were on the staff of a coach that was fired. Well, what is he going to try to do? These assistants, if he's smart, this is just the way it is. He's going to try to get them a spot on a staff with like a Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, so they can put that on their resume. Well, that doesn't necessarily help Alabama or Georgia if they're not good coaches. That's the power, the Sextonization of college football. Yeah. And you look at, the longer Bobby Bowden stayed at Florida State, the further removed he was from the day-to-day hands-on operations. How in touch was he and in tune was he with who the top young coaches were out there? How many young up-and-coming assistant coaches were willing to move their families potentially across the country to come there for maybe a year or two? They don't know, but you got to think about it. Look, Bobby Bowden was incredible. But there's a point where you got to think. Everybody thinks Alabama next year is just going to pick right back up. Alabama, where are those elite? I had this discussion with one of the smartest Alabama fans I know last night for several hours on the phone. Where are those elite defensive linemen that Alabama used to have? Yeah. Where and where's
they're playing in that? They're playing in Athens.
I was gonna say they're over in Athens.
Yeah, Alabama's got a great program, but Quinnen Williams was probably the last superstar. Marcel Darius, and they got him for 9 or 10 games. I tell you where Alabama. There are schools out there, in my opinion, that are working behind the scenes to keep one man from being on the staff, and that's Jeremy Pruitt. There's some SEC schools that don't want him back. He's the best defensive coordinator Nick Saban's ever had.
But he is also a cheater. He's a cheater. Let's call him what it is. Okay.
I think that story has yet to be written.
Well, I talk to people.
And I just say that it's interesting, but I think Pruitt, his sins, if he could be cleansed of his sins, if that's possible.
There have been some coaches that have left programs in shambles.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them hold a candle to Jeremy Pruitt when he left Tennessee.
But I think that story has not been told yet. Yeah. And I think there are people behind the scenes up there in Knoxville that we're not going to talk about it now, but you're going to hear some names come out that were telling him what to do, and he got blamed for it. And I think it's going to be a big story, but I just think Jeremy Pruitt.
One of them was a former coach. So
yeah.
Real quick, I know Frank was making a point. I want to say, here's the odd thing about how this thing works with coaches. One of the most despised guys at Florida and Athens was Todd Grantham, right?
Yeah.
They had a defense called Third and Grantham, whatever. And he was fired at Florida. I personally thought he was a pretty good coach, but he had lapses. But now, do you know how close Nick Saban came to hiring Todd Grantham as his defensive coordinator?
Yes.
Think about that rejuvenation.
I know. Hey, guys, I'm almost out of time. Let me say, we most often see the face of Christ in the least among us, and we live in the greatest country in the world. Give to give, don't give to get. And this has been a great discussion. I'm just saying, Jeremy Pruitt, all these coaches, Hugh Freeze went through the mill. You got to, if you get a second chance, don't screw it up. But I think that we don't ever, if you like sausage and you like the law, Mark Twain was right. Don't watch either one of them being made. Buddy, tell people how they can keep up with you and follow you. And if you like Boudin, watch it being made because it's really special. That goes out to Quentin Stein and Smith Tanner and Blake Klein, the late Paul trio. That's right.
Yeah, Frank's got all the stuff, the cuisine answers, and all I do is talk about football here. But I just want to say that we're on 9 o'clock Monday through Thursday. We have, as you know, Ben Troop and Van Spear and that gang, and we talk ball and mostly Florida and always SEC on streaming. Buddy Martin show, and then we do our Gator Bait, which we're very proud of. Our Gator Bait. Who's that, by the way?
Delta the dog. That's all of his dog.
Delta. Oh, hi Delta. We're grieving right now because my son's dog ran off last night. We can't find him. Sammy. So come home, Sammy. Anyway, so there we go. And we're our Gator Bait. If you want to sign up, go to GatorBaitMedia.com. You can get all kind of packages. They're not that expensive if you want to, or get the all access. And we give you a lot of stuff you don't read someplace else. And I like to think some of the better writing around with Friends, Beer, and others.
Oh, look, I'll tell you, I love Gator Bait Media, Frank, and anybody listening, watching. It's about the Gators, the SEC, but the big picture of college football, true grit, journalism, responsible writing. Okay, you're going to get some every morning when you wake up. It's in your mailbox. So, buddy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
St. Anthony, pray for Sammy to come back home, man.
Really.
God, love my animals, man. Great show, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. We are out of here.